The water hit Maya Chen like a wall of ice. 30 feet below the surface of tech billionaire Richard Blackwell's infinity pool, she could see them. Dozens of venomous lionfish, their spines glinting like needles in the underwater lights. Above, the sound of laughter. Phones recording. Wealthy guests placing bets on how long she'd last. This wasn't an accident. This was murder, disguised as entertainment. But Richard Blackwell had made one fatal mistake. Maya wasn't just a software engineer he'd fired and humiliated. She was a former marine biologist who'd spent years studying predatory fish behavior. And she was about to show him that knowledge, not money, was the real power. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible true stories. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. The San Francisco mansion blazed with lights as the tech elite gathered for Richard Blackwell's famous summer gala. The founder of Blackwell Technologies had spared no expense. Champagne fountains, celebrity chefs, and the crown jewel of his estate. An Olympic-sized infinity pool with glass walls showcasing his private collection of exotic lionfish. Cost me $500,000 to import them legally, Richard bragged to a cluster of venture capitalists. Another $2 million for the filtration system. But you can't put a price on being unique. Maya Chen moved through the crowd with practiced invisibility, carrying her laptop bag and wearing the casual blazer that marked her as staff rather than guest. At 32, she'd been one of Blackwell Technologies' top engineers, until 3 months ago when Richard had fired her for refusing to falsify safety data on their new water purification system. The system was meant for developing nations, but Maya's testing had revealed it released trace amounts of toxic chemicals. When she'd reported it internally, Richard had accused her of corporate sabotage, destroyed her reputation, and had her blacklisted from every major tech company in Silicon Valley. But Maya hadn't given up. She'd spent months investigating, discovering that Richard had been deliberately dumping industrial waste from his manufacturing plants into San Francisco Bay, poisoning the very waters his company claimed to protect. She'd gathered evidence, emails, disposal schedules, payment records to corrupt inspectors. Tonight, she was here under false pretenses, claiming she needed to retrieve personal files from the company server. Really, she was uploading the final pieces of evidence to a secure server that would automatically release everything to the EPA and major news outlets if she didn't check in by midnight. Richard found her near the pool at exactly 8:47 p.m. Maya Chen. His voice cut through the party noise. I didn't invite you. The crowd quieted, sensing drama. Richard's reputation for public humiliation was legendary. I'm just collecting my files, Maya said calmly. Your files? Richard laughed. You mean the company property you tried to steal? The proprietary data you planned to sell to competitors? Maya's jaw tightened. That's not true, and you know it. What I know, Richard said, stepping closer, is that you're a disgruntled employee who couldn't handle being fired. A liar who tried to destroy my company with false accusations. He grabbed her laptop bag. Inside were her personal devices and the backup drive containing all her evidence. Give that back, Maya demanded. Richard opened the bag, pulled out the drive, and held it up for the crowd to see. Is this what you came for? Your little insurance policy. Before Maya could respond, Richard threw the drive into the pool. It sank toward the lionfish, who scattered at the disturbance. Oops, Richard smiled. Looks like your evidence just went for a swim. The crowd laughed. Someone started filming. Maya's hands clenched. The drive was encrypted and waterproof, but retrieving it meant going into that pool. With those lionfish. What's wrong? Richard taunted. Afraid of a few fish? I thought you used to study marine biology before you failed out. Maya hadn't failed out, she'd left to pursue computer science. But Richard never let truth interfere with a good story. Those lionfish are venomous, someone in the crowd noted. Their spines can cause extreme pain, nausea, even death in some cases. Oh, I know, Richard said. That's what makes them so fascinating. Beautiful and deadly. He turned back to Maya. So what's it going to be? Are you going to retrieve your little drive? Or are you going to run away like you always do? Maya looked at the pool, at the lionfish drifting lazily near the bottom, at the drive settling on the tile. She thought about the evidence, about the poisoned bay, about every person Richard had hurt and would continue hurting if she didn't stop him. She thought about the fact that Richard didn't know she'd already uploaded copies of everything. The drive was just a backup. But she also knew this was Richard's play. He wanted to humiliate her in front of everyone. Wanted her to either refuse and look like a coward, or attempt it and get stung, providing him with entertainment and a liability waiver. She looked at Richard's smug face and made her decision. "I'll get it," she said quietly. Richard's smile widened. "Excellent. Someone time this. I'm betting she doesn't last 2 minutes." Maya kicked off her shoes and dove into the pool of venomous fish. The cold water shocked Maya's system, but she forced herself to remain calm. Panic would kill her faster than any lionfish sting. She'd written her master's thesis on lionfish behavior before switching careers. She knew their patterns, their triggers, their weaknesses. Lionfish were ambush predators. They didn't chase prey. They waited for food to come to them, then struck with lightning speed using their venomous spines. The key was not looking like prey. Maya descended slowly, her movements smooth and deliberate. No splashing, no erratic swimming. The lionfish watched her with their bulging eyes, curious but not aggressive. They were well-fed pets, not starving hunters. The drive lay 30 feet down, near the pool's deepest point. Maya calculated her oxygen. She could hold her breath for about 90 seconds if she stayed calm. Enough time to retrieve the drive and surface if nothing went wrong. Above, she could hear muffled shouting. Richard's voice carried through the water. "Look at her down there. Thinks she's so smart." Maya reached the bottom and grasped the drive. As she did, one of the lionfish drifted closer, a large male with elaborate fins that spread like a decorative fan. Its spines, she knew, contained venom that would cause excruciating pain. The fish hovered 2 feet away, assessing her. Maya froze. Lionfish attacked when they felt threatened or when prey moved suddenly. She needed to ascend without triggering its defensive response. Her lungs began to burn. 60 seconds gone. Maybe 30 left. She pushed off the bottom with agonizing slowness, rising through the water like a bubble. The lionfish followed, matching her speed, still curious. 20 seconds of air left. Another lionfish appeared from behind the glass wall. Then another. She was surrounded by 6 of them now, all maintaining distance but tracking her movement. 10 seconds. Maya's vision started to tunnel. Her body screamed for oxygen. She was 15 feet from the surface, so close, but if she kicked hard and fast, if she signaled distress, the lionfish would interpret it as threat or injury. They'd strike. 5 seconds. She had to surface now or drown. Maya made her choice. Instead of swimming up, she swam horizontally toward the pool's wall, moving parallel to the lionfish rather than away from them. The unexpected angle confused them. Prey didn't move sideways. Her hand touched the wall. She used it to push herself upward in one smooth motion, minimizing splash, keeping her body streamlined. She broke the surface gasping, her lungs pulling in air like bellows. The lionfish circled below, still curious but untriggered. The crowd erupted, some cheering, others looking disappointed. Maya pulled herself to the edge, the drive clutched in her fist. She tried to haul herself out, but her arms shook with exhaustion. Then Richard's expensive shoe came down on her fingers. "Not so fast," he said quietly, smiling for the cameras. "I don't think you've learned your lesson yet." The pain was immediate and blinding. Maya's grip failed. She slipped back into the water, the drive slipping from her hand, sinking again toward the lionfish. This time when she went under, she was disoriented, injured, oxygen-deprived. The lionfish sensed the change in her movement, erratic now, desperate. 2 of them began circling closer, their spines extended. Above the water, Richard was addressing his guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, what we're witnessing here is exactly why I had to fire Ms. Chen. She's reckless, she doesn't think things through, and she blames others for her own poor decisions. More laughter. More phones recording. Maya's hand found the drive again, but her injured fingers couldn't grip it properly. A lionfish darted toward her leg. She twisted away, but the movement attracted another. They were getting aggressive now, interpreting her struggles as the behavior of wounded prey. She needed to get out. Needed air. Needed to think. But Richard stood at the edge, blocking her exit, and the lionfish were closing in, and the water was so cold, and she was so tired. Her vision started to blur. Then she remembered something from her old research, something about lionfish and strong currents. They were poor swimmers, adapted for calm reef environments. Strong water movement disoriented them, made them retreat to shelter. Maya's eyes found the pool's edge, where she could see the equipment room built into the deck. The same room where Richard had once bragged about his state-of-the-art current and wave generation system. If she could reach those controls. She kicked toward the surface one more time, breaking through with a gasp. Richard moved to kick her back down, but Maya was ready. She grabbed his ankle and pulled. Richard's arms windmilled as he fought for balance. For one frozen moment, he teetered on the edge, half his body over the venomous water. His eyes locked with Maya's, wide with sudden understanding, sudden fear. Then his hand shot out and caught the pool's edge. His Italian leather shoes found purchase on the tile. He hauled himself backward, collapsing on the deck with his designer suit soaked and his chest heaving. "You tried to kill me," he gasped, staring at Maya with pure hatred. Everyone saw that. Assault. Battery. But Maya was already moving. While Richard caught his breath, while the guests shouted and recorded, she pulled herself out on the opposite side of the pool and ran. Her bare feet slapped against the wet tile as she sprinted toward the equipment room. Behind her, Richard's security team materialized from the crowd. 2 large men in dark suits, trained and efficient. "Stop her!" Richard screamed. "Don't let her leave this property." Maya wasn't running for the exit. She was running for the small structure built into the deck near the shallow end. The pool control room Richard had shown off during her first company party, bragging about its $1 million wave generation system. Her hand closed on the door handle. Locked. The guards were 20 feet away. 15. Maya grabbed a decorative rock from a nearby planter and smashed it against the handle. Once. Twice. The metal bent. 10 feet. Third strike. The lock shattered. Maya threw herself through the door and slammed it behind her. She shoved a metal shelving unit in front of it just as the guards hit from the other side. The room was small, lit by the glow of electronic control panels. Maya's eyes adjusted quickly. Years of late-night coding sessions had trained her for dim light. She found what she needed, the main control system for the pool's current generation. The guards pounded on the door. "Open up now or we're authorized to use force." Maya ignored them, her fingers flying across the touchscreen. She navigated through menus, finding the current control system. Several options appeared. Standard circulation wave generation resistance currents emergency drain reverse flow. Warning. Create strong whirlpool effect. Not recommended with pool occupants. Outside Richard's voice. "Break it down. I don't care how." Maya's finger hovered over the reverse flow option. The warning was clear. This wasn't meant to be used with anyone in the pool. The system could create currents strong enough to disorient swimmers, trap them in a vortex. She thought about the evidence on that drive, now at the bottom of the pool. About the poisoned bay. About every person Richard had destroyed. About the fact that her automated upload wouldn't trigger for another 3 hours. Plenty of time for Richard to find and stop it if she didn't create a distraction. And she thought about lionfish behavior. They were poor swimmers, adapted for calm water. Strong currents would force them into defensive positions, make them hide, neutralize the danger they posed. The door shuddered as the guards hit it again. The shelving unit scraped backward. Maya pressed the activation button. "Flow reversal initiating," the system announced in a pleasant female voice. Building to maximum capacity. Estimated time to full power, 30 seconds. Maya opened the emergency window at the back of the room and climbed through, dropping into the landscaping outside. Her legs nearly buckled, but she forced herself to move, to get where she could see the pool. The water was already beginning to churn. Richard stood at the edge with his back to the pool, directing his security team. He didn't notice the change in the water behind him. Didn't feel the shift in the air as thousands of gallons began moving in the wrong direction. Flow reversal at 50% capacity, the system announced. Caution, whirlpool formation detected. Richard turned then. His face went pale. The water was spinning now, forming a visible depression in the center, a vortex pulling everything toward it. The lionfish tumbled helplessly through the current, unable to fight the flow, their elaborate fins useless against the artificial maelstrom. "What did you do?" Richard screamed, spinning to search for Maya. She stood on the far side of the pool, dripping wet, her clothes torn, her hand bleeding where he'd stepped on it. But she was standing. Alive. Unbroken. "I learned from the ocean," she said, her voice carrying across the churning water. "It's stronger than you. Stronger than your money. Stronger than your cruelty. Shut it off." Richard lunged toward the equipment room, but the guards were still trying to get through the door from inside. Flow reversal at 75% capacity. Warning, maximum whirlpool effect approaching. The pool had become a nightmare of physics and karma. Water churned with such violence that it looked like it was boiling, waves crashing over the edges and soaking the marble deck. The lionfish tumbled through the current like leaves in a storm, completely helpless, their venomous spines useless against the force of moving water. Flow reversal at 100% capacity, the system announced. Whirlpool formation complete. Richard abandoned the equipment room and ran toward the main house, toward the circuit breaker that could shut down the entire pool system. His expensive shoes, the same ones he'd used to crush Maya's fingers, hit a patch of water on the deck. His foot slipped. Everything happened in slow motion. His arms windmilled exactly like before, but this time there was nothing to grab. No edge within reach. No second chance. Richard Blackwell fell backward into his own pool, into the vortex he'd created through his arrogance, into the justice he'd spent a lifetime avoiding. The splash was enormous. The screaming was louder. Richard surfaced with a gasp that turned into a scream. The whirlpool had him, pulling him in a wide spiral toward the center where the current was strongest. He kicked frantically, arms flailing, trying to swim against the flow that was far too powerful. "Help!" His voice cut through everything. The music, the chatter, the pretense. "Someone help me." The guests who'd been laughing minutes ago rushed to the edge in genuine horror. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was real. This was death approaching in real time. "Get him out!" someone shouted. "Do something." The security guards appeared at the edge, no longer chasing Maya. One threw a pool float toward Richard. It hit the water and was immediately sucked into the whirlpool, spinning away before Richard could reach it. Another guard tried a life preserver. Same result. "The current's too strong," a guard yelled. "We can't get anything to him." Richard was being pulled deeper into the center, his head going under, coming back up, going under again. His $1,000 suit weighed him down like an anchor. His perfectly styled hair plastered across his face. His tanned skin pale with terror. Maya stood at the edge, watching him spin. Silent. Celeste. Richard's voice was raw, breaking. "Help me. Please." She didn't move. "I'm sorry," he screamed, water filling his mouth. "I'm sorry for what I did. I'll make it right. I'll give you anything." The guests were shouting now too, at Maya, at each other, at the universe. "You have to save him. Don't just stand there. This is murder. You're killing him." A woman in diamonds grabbed Maya's arm. "Please, whatever he did to you, this isn't the answer. You'll go to prison for this." Maya looked at the woman's hand on her arm, then at her face. He threw me into that pool to die. You all watched. Some of you filmed it. Some of you laughed. The woman released her arm, shame flickering across her face. Richard went under again. 5 seconds. 10. 15. When he surfaced, he was gasping, choking, barely able to keep his head above water. A lionfish, tumbling helplessly through the current, crashed into his leg. Its spines found flesh instinctively. It bit down reflexively before the current tore it away. Richard's scream was primal, a sound of pure agony that made several guests cover their ears. Blood bloomed in the water, mixing with the white foam of the churning pool. Make it stop. Richard's voice was barely recognizable. Maya, please make it stop. She stood watching, her mind filling with memories. The humiliation at being fired in front of the whole company. The fake accusations that destroyed her reputation. The poisoned bay that killed thousands of fish. The communities drinking contaminated water while Richard's company claimed to be saving them. Another lionfish hit him. Then another. They weren't hunting, just tumbling through the chaos, their defensive instincts triggering when they collided with his body. Bite. Release. Bite again. Richard was screaming continuously now, a sound that barely seemed human. Turn it off, he begged. For God's sake, turn it off. Maya moved then, walking along the pool edge toward the backup control panel visible through a waterproof window on the deck. She could see the bright red emergency stop button from here. One push and the current would shut down. The water would calm. Richard could be pulled out, treated, probably survive. The guests saw where she was going. Relief rippled through the crowd. She was going to save him. Of course she was. Maya reached the control panel. Her hand hovered over the emergency stop button. Maya's finger rested on the emergency stop button. The red light pulsed beneath her fingertip like a heartbeat. One push. That's all it would take. Richard saw it. Hope blazed across his face even as another lionfish spine found his shoulder. Yes, he screamed. Push it. Stop this. I'll confess, Richard shouted desperately, the words tumbling out. Everything. The illegal dumping, the bribes, the payoffs to EPA officials. All of it. I'll turn over all my records. I'll testify against everyone involved. Just stop this. The guests gasped. Phones that had lowered were recording again. Richard's confession, spoken in pure terror, captured on dozens of devices. I poisoned the bay. Richard continued, not realizing, or not caring what he was saying. I knew what the chemicals would do. I knew it was protected waters. I didn't care. It was cheaper than proper disposal. It was always about the money. His voice broke. I've destroyed careers. Ruined people who got in my way. I own inspectors, politicians, judges. I can give you all their names. Every corrupt official I've paid. Just save me. Please. Maya's finger was on the button. One push. She looked at Richard, the man who'd tried to destroy her, who'd poisoned the waters, who'd hurt countless people and never faced consequences. The man who was now begging for the mercy he'd never shown anyone else. Around her, the guests held their breath. Maya pressed the button. Nothing happened. She pressed it again. Still nothing. The control panel display flickered. Override active. Manual reset required at main control panel. The button was just for monitoring. The actual controls were inside the equipment room where she'd activated the system. Richard saw the confusion on her face and understood. No. No, no, no. Get to the equipment room. You have to shut it down manually. Maya looked at the equipment room door 50 feet away. Looked at Richard being pulled toward the vortex's center. Looked at her own injured body, at the blood still flowing from her hand, at the exhaustion making her vision blur. She could make it to the equipment room. Probably. But it would take time. 30 seconds at least. Maybe a minute. Richard didn't have a minute. She looked at him. At the choice before her. at the line between justice and revenge. And she ran. Her injured feet carried her across the deck, past the stunned guests, toward the equipment room door. Every step sent pain shooting through her body, but she pushed through it. Pushed past everything except the need to reach those controls. 25 seconds. She burst through the equipment room door and slammed her hand against the main control panel. Her bloody finger found the emergency shutdown override. She pressed it. For a horrible moment, nothing happened. Then the system began powering down. The hum of the pumps decreasing. The electronic voice announcing, "Emergency shutdown initiated. Current reversal terminating." Outside, the water began to calm. The violent spinning slowed. The whirlpool flattened. The churning surface gradually became smooth. Maya collapsed against the wall, her legs finally giving out. Through the window, she could see security guards rushing to the pool edge, extending poles and ropes toward Richard's floating body. They pulled him out onto the deck. He wasn't moving. The entire party held its breath. Then Richard coughed. Water spewed from his mouth. He rolled onto his side, gasping. Alive. The guests erupted in relief and continued horror. Richard was covered in lionfish stings, his designer suit shredded, stained with blood. Deep punctures on his leg, shoulder, hands. But he was breathing. Paramedics appeared, pushing through the crowd. Someone had called 911 during the chaos. Behind them came police officers, their uniforms stark against the party's glittering excess. One officer approached Maya cautiously. "Ma'am, I need you to step away from the controls and come with me." Maya nodded, too exhausted to speak. She let the officer guide her to a chair away from the pool, away from Richard, away from the nightmare. As paramedics worked on Richard, stabilizing him, loading him onto a stretcher, his eyes found hers. They were filled with something she'd never seen in them before. Fear. Pure, genuine fear. Not of the lionfish. Not of the water. Fear of her. Of what she'd done. Of what she represented. The realization that he wasn't untouchable after all. More police arrived. Detectives. Crime scene investigators. They began taking statements, photographing the pool, interviewing guests. And through it all, the phones kept recording, uploading, sharing. The first video hit social media at 9:42 p.m. "You won't believe what just happened at Richard Blackwell's party." Within an hour, the world would know everything. The video went viral in 18 minutes. The tech entrepreneur who posted it had 3 million followers. His phone had captured everything: Richard pushing Maya into the lionfish pool, his laughter, the guests placing bets, his attempts to prevent her escape. Within an hour, it had 10 million views. By midnight, 50 million. Other angles emerged. A venture capitalist's video showing Richard crushing Maya's fingers. A startup founder's footage of him throwing objects into the pool, trying to agitate the lionfish. An investor's recording of the moment he fell into his own trap. And crucially, the confession. Richard's screaming admission about the illegal dumping, the bribes, the corruption. Every word crystal clear, recorded from multiple angles. #lionfishpool trended worldwide within 90 minutes. At the police station, Detective Sarah Martinez sat across from Maya in an interview room. A blanket wrapped around Maya's shoulders. Bandages covered the lionfish stings on her arms and legs. Painful but not life-threatening. The lionfish had been too disoriented by the current to deliver their full venom load. "Ms. Chen," Detective Martinez said, closing her laptop after watching the videos for the third time. "I need your statement about what happened tonight. But first, you have the right to an attorney. Do you want one? Am I being charged?" Maya's voice was hoarse. "No," Martinez said firmly. "Based on these videos, this is clear self-defense. Richard Blackwell pushed you into a pool full of venomous fish with intent to cause serious harm. Multiple witnesses confirm he prevented your escape and actively tried to agitate the fish. What happened after was you defending your life." She paused. But I need your full statement. And I need to know about the allegations Blackwell made while in the pool. The environmental crimes. The corruption. Maya took a shaky breath. I have evidence. Documents, emails, disposal schedules. I uploaded them to a secure server 3 hours ago with a dead man's switch. If I didn't check in, they'd automatically release to the EPA, FBI, and major news outlets. She pulled out her phone with trembling hands. But I can release them now. Detective Martinez leaned forward. Ms. Chin, I've been a detective for 12 years. I've seen too many wealthy people escape justice. But not this time. The videos, your evidence, Blackwell's own confession. We're building a case his lawyers can't make disappear. Over the next 2 hours, Maya told her story. Every detail from taking the job at Blackwell Technologies, discovering the illegal dumping, gathering evidence, being fired and blacklisted, attending the party to upload final proof. When they finished, it was past midnight. You're free to go, Martinez said. We'll need you for follow-up interviews, but tonight, you're done. As Maya walked through the police station toward the exit, she saw the TV in the lobby. Her own face filled the screen, a photo someone had taken of her standing at the pool edge, soaking wet, defiant. The headline, Who is Maya Chen? The engineer who survived Richard Blackwell's death trap. Detective Martinez appeared beside her. You're famous. The videos have been viewed over 100 million times. You're all anyone's talking about. They stepped outside. News vans lined the street. Reporters noticed them and surged forward, cameras swinging, voices shouting. Ms. Chin, how do you feel? Are you pressing charges? What message do you have for other whistleblowers? Martinez held up a hand, shielding Maya. No comment. Ms. Chen is not making statements at this time. They got to Martinez's car and pulled away from the chaos. Maya leaned her head against the window, watching the city lights blur past. Somewhere out there, Richard Blackwell was in a hospital bed under police guard, his tech empire crumbling. Somewhere out there, millions of people were watching her fight for survival, sharing it, making her into a symbol. But right now, she just felt tired. Ms. Chen, Martinez said as they pulled up to Maya's apartment. What you did tonight, surviving, exposing Blackwell's crimes, refusing to let him silence you, that takes courage most people don't have. Maya got out of the car and stood on the sidewalk, looking up at her window. Martinez called after her. You're a hero. The word felt strange. Maya didn't feel like a hero. She felt like someone who'd barely survived, who'd been pushed to the edge and had no choice but to fight back. But as she walked inside, she thought about the bay that might be cleaned now. The other whistleblowers who might be protected. The system that kept people like Richard untouchable, finally cracking. Maybe that's what heroes were. Not people who felt brave, but people who fought anyway. For the first time in months, Maya felt something she'd almost forgotten. Hope. The federal agents arrived at Blackwell Technologies headquarters at 6 a.m. Monday morning. 30 agents with badges, boxes, and search warrants swept through the gleaming tech campus like a digital tsunami. They seized computers, servers, hard drives, backup systems, everything. Employees arriving for work were turned away at the entrance. The warrant cited Richard's poolside confession, the one recorded on 47 phones and viewed by 200 million people worldwide. Probable cause to believe Blackwell Technologies engaged in illegal disposal of hazardous waste, bribery of government officials, and environmental fraud. By noon, federal investigators had found everything Maya discovered, plus more. Disposal records going back 12 years. Payment ledgers showing bribes to EPA inspectors, state senators, environmental officials. Emails discussing falsification of safety reports. Internal memos calculating that fines were cheaper than proper waste treatment. The evidence was overwhelming and completely damning. The Blackwell Technologies board held an emergency meeting at 2 p.m. Richard wasn't invited. He remained hospitalized under police guard, recovering from multiple lionfish stings and near drowning. But his absence didn't matter. The vote was unanimous. Effective immediately, Richard Blackwell is removed from all positions within Blackwell Technologies and subsidiary companies. His ownership stake is placed in trust pending criminal and civil proceedings. The press release hit at 3 p.m. By 3:30, the company's stock had dropped 43%. By market close, down 68%. Major clients began canceling contracts within hours. The Smart City Infrastructure project in Austin, cancelled. The water purification systems for Jakarta, cancelled. The environmental monitoring contract with California's Coastal Commission, cancelled with extreme prejudice. We cannot be associated with Blackwell Technologies at this time, the statements all read. Translation: Richard Blackwell was toxic. Being connected to him would destroy their own brands. At 5 p.m., divorce papers were served to Richard's hospital room. His wife of 15 years, Jennifer, was filing. She wanted full custody of their twin daughters, age 9. She wanted the Palo Alto house, the Tahoe cabin, half of everything not seized by the government. Due to the defendant's criminal behavior and public endangerment, the filing stated. Jennifer released a statement. I am horrified by my husband's actions. I had no knowledge of his criminal activities or his attempt to harm Ms. Chen. My priority is protecting my daughters from their father's choices. Richard crumpled the papers in his bandaged hands, the motion painful through the lionfish venom still working through his system. Everyone was abandoning him. Everyone who'd laughed at his jokes, attended his parties, benefited from his connections, gone. Meanwhile, Maya's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Job offers flooded in. The Environmental Defense Fund wanted her as lead investigator. The Sierra Club offered a position as tech advisor. 3 Bay Area tech companies that had blacklisted her weeks ago, now competed to hire her back with embarrassingly generous packages. Your story is inspiring millions, one recruiter said. You're a symbol of corporate accountability, of whistleblower courage. Every company wants someone with your integrity. Publishers offered 6-figure advances for her book. Documentary filmmakers wanted to follow her journey. Speaking bureaus competed to book her for conferences, universities, corporate ethics seminars. The media attention was relentless. Every major outlet wanted an interview. On Tuesday evening, Maya agreed to one. 60 Minutes. National audience. Serious journalism. A chance to tell the truth on her own terms. The interview aired Sunday night. Maya Chen, the correspondent began. For days ago you survived something that seems impossible. Can you tell us what happened? Maya told her story, not just the party, but everything before it. Her work at Blackwell Technologies, discovering the illegal dumping, trying to report it internally, being fired and blacklisted. I didn't go to that party for revenge, Maya explained. I went to upload the final evidence that would expose what Richard had been doing to the Bay. The evidence that would hold up in court and couldn't be buried by his lawyers. She showed the correspondent copies of the documents, disposal schedules, chemical analyses showing toxins in protected waters, emails discussing how to avoid environmental regulations. San Francisco Bay is home to endangered species, sensitive ecosystems, communities that depend on clean water, Maya said, emotion thickening her voice. Richard Blackwell poisoned it. For 12 years. Thousands of fish died. Harbor seals showed up with chemical burns. Children got sick swimming in contaminated water. The correspondent leaned forward. And when he discovered you'd exposed him, he tried to kill you. Yes. In front of 200 witnesses. He threw me into that pool knowing the lionfish could kill me. He thought he could call it an accident. He thought he was untouchable. But you survived. Maya nodded. I studied marine biology before I became an engineer. I knew lionfish behavior, how they hunt, what triggers them, what confuses them. That knowledge saved my life. The interview aired to 18 million viewers. By morning, Another 40 million watched it online. Environmental groups began releasing their findings, detailed reports on the bay contamination, satellite imagery showing industrial runoff, water samples proving the toxins came from Blackwell facilities. This is one of the worst environmental disasters in California history, a marine biologist told CNN. The damage is extensive. Some species may not recover. And it was completely preventable. Richard Blackwell chose profit over the planet. By Wednesday, criminal charges were filed. Not just against Richard, but against 5 Blackwell Technologies executives involved in the dumping operation. The indictment was 42 pages. Attempted murder. Environmental crimes under the Clean Water Act. Bribery. Fraud. Racketeering. If convicted on all counts, Richard faced 35 years in federal prison. The trial began on a Monday morning that smelled of eucalyptus and justice. The San Francisco federal courthouse steps were packed with protesters, reporters, and supporters wearing Team Maya t-shirts. Maya walked through them in a gray suit, her lionfish scars visible at her wrists, her expression calm and determined. Inside, the courtroom was standing room only. Every major news outlet had sent correspondents. The trial was being live-streamed, a judge's rare decision based on overwhelming public interest. The prosecution opened with devastating precision. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," the assistant U.S. attorney began, "this case is about a man who believed he was above the law. A man who poisoned an entire bay ecosystem to save money. A man who, when caught, attempted to murder the whistleblower who exposed him." She clicked to a video, the one watched by hundreds of millions worldwide. Richard pushing Maya into the lionfish pool. His laughter. His guests filming and betting. Several jurors' expressions hardened. Over the next 3 weeks, the prosecution built an airtight case. Environmental scientists testified about the bay's contamination, showing before and after satellite images of the damage. EPA officials detailed the bribes Richard had paid to avoid inspections. Former employees described being threatened into silence. Maya took the stand on day 12. She wore a simple blue blouse and spoke with quiet confidence, explaining her marine biology background, how she discovered the dumping, what she tried to do internally before going public. "Lionfish don't attack unless provoked," she explained, looking directly at the jury. "They respond to erratic movement, to signs of injury or distress. They're ambush predators. They wait for prey to come to them." She clicked to a diagram showing lionfish anatomy, their venomous spines, their hunting patterns. "When Mr. Blackwell threw me into that pool, he threw objects to agitate them. He prevented me from escaping. He kicked my hand when I tried to climb out. He created exactly the conditions that would trigger an attack." The defense attorney cross-examined aggressively, trying to paint Maya as a disgruntled employee seeking revenge. But the videos told a different story. As did Richard's own confession, played again for the jury, his screaming admission of illegal dumping, bribes, corruption. "I poisoned the bay," Richard's voice echoed through the courtroom. "I knew what the chemicals would do. I didn't care. It was cheaper." The defense had no answer for that. Victim impact statements followed, heartbreaking and powerful. A fisherman who'd lost his livelihood when the fish disappeared. A mother whose daughter developed respiratory problems from swimming in contaminated water. A marine researcher who'd watched protected harbor seals die from chemical exposure. "My team spent 15 years studying that seal colony," the researcher testified, tears streaming. "We knew every individual animal. We watched them thrive, raise pups, recover from endangered status. Then within 2 years, they were gone. Poisoned by Richard Blackwell's waste." On the final day, Richard took the stand against his lawyer's advice. He'd lost weight during the trial, the lionfish scars visible on his hands, his confident tech mogul demeanor replaced by desperation. "I made mistakes," he testified. "Bad decisions. But I never meant to hurt anyone. The dumping, I didn't know how bad it was. My executives assured me it was safe." The prosecutor stood for cross-examination. Mr. Blackwell, you testified you didn't know about the environmental damage. But we have emails showing you personally approved the disposal schedule. We have memos where you calculated that fines were cheaper than proper treatment. Were you lying then, or are you lying now? Richard stammered. It's complicated. The business pressures. Yes or no, Mr. Blackwell? Did you knowingly authorize illegal dumping? Silence. Did you throw Maya Chen into a pool of venomous lionfish? She was stealing company property. Did you throw her into that pool? Richard's face crumpled. Yes. Knowing the lionfish could kill her? I wasn't thinking clearly. But you were thinking clearly enough to kick her hand when she tried to escape? To throw objects to agitate the fish? No answer. The prosecutor turned to the jury. Mr. Blackwell wants you to believe this was all a misunderstanding. That he's the real victim here. But the evidence, the videos, the documents, his own confession, tells a different story. It tells the story of a man who believed wealth made him untouchable, who believed he could poison an ecosystem, silence whistleblowers, even commit attempted murder, and face no consequences. She paused. It's time to prove him wrong. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the forewoman stood. Her voice was steady. On the count of attempted murder, guilty. On the counts of environmental crimes, guilty on all counts. On the charges of bribery and fraud, guilty. 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 37 counts. Guilty on every single one. Richard's face went white. His lawyers sat in stunned silence. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. The courtroom was packed again. Protesters outside, media everywhere, Maya sitting in the front row with an expression of quiet determination. Judge Patricia Morrison, a woman whose own brother had died from industrial pollution-related cancer, reviewed the sentencing guidelines with clinical precision. Mr. Blackwell, she began, looking down at Richard from the bench, you have been convicted of 37 felonies. The sentencing guidelines suggest 15 to 20 years. The prosecution has requested the maximum. She paused, letting the words settle. But before I pronounce sentence, I want to address what this case represents. For too long, wealthy individuals and corporations have treated our environment as a disposable resource. They've calculated that fines are simply the cost of doing business. They've used their power to silence critics and avoid accountability. Judge Morrison's voice hardened. You, Mr. Blackwell, represent everything wrong with that system. You didn't just break environmental laws. You corrupted the very agencies meant to enforce them. You didn't just harm the ecosystem. You threatened to kill the woman who tried to stop you. Richard stood trembling, his expensive lawyers flanking him. The court finds your actions demonstrate exceptional cruelty and a complete disregard for human life and environmental protection. Therefore, Richard Blackwell, you are hereby sentenced to 22 years in federal prison, followed by 10 years of supervised release. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Additionally, Judge Morrison continued, you are ordered to pay $89 million in restitution, the estimated cost to remediate the bay contamination and compensate affected communities. Your assets will be liquidated to satisfy this debt. The gavel fell like thunder. Outside the courthouse, Maya stood at a podium surrounded by environmental advocates, reporters, and supporters. Today isn't about revenge, she said into the microphones. It's about accountability. For too long, people like Richard Blackwell have operated without consequences. They've poisoned our water, our air, our communities, and faced nothing but minor fines they could afford. Her voice grew stronger. But that's changing. Today, we proved that wealth doesn't place you above the law. That corporations can't simply buy their way out of environmental crimes. That whistleblowers who speak truth to power will be protected, not punished. The crowd erupted in cheers. That night, Maya filed incorporation papers for a new organization, the Ecosystem Justice Project. The mission statement was simple: protecting whistleblowers, prosecuting environmental crimes, giving voice to communities harmed by corporate pollution. Seed money came from Richard's seized assets, $12 million allocated by the court specifically for environmental advocacy. Crowdfunding matched it within a week, crashing servers twice. Within a month, Maya had assembled a team: former EPA investigators, environmental lawyers, marine biologists, data scientists who could track pollution sources. They set up shop in a modest Oakland office overlooking the bay, the same bay they were working to heal. Their first case came from a small community in Louisiana. Black residents living next to a chemical plant, experiencing cancer rates 3 times the national average. The company claimed their operations were safe. But satellite data Maya's team analyzed told a different story. "We're filing suit," Maya announced at a press conference. "And we're not just seeking fines, we're demanding criminal prosecution, full remediation, and permanent monitoring." The case went viral. Other communities reached out. Flint, Michigan, Appalachian coal country, indigenous lands near oil pipelines. Everywhere corporations had poisoned with impunity. Maya's team took them all. 6 months after the trial, Maya stood on a boat in San Francisco Bay. Marine biologists around her were collecting water samples, their faces bright with cautious optimism. "The toxin levels are down 60%, the lead scientist reported. "We're seeing fish species return that disappeared years ago. Harbor seals are starting to come back. The ecosystem is healing." Maya looked out at the water, watching sunlight dance on the surface. Somewhere below, life was returning. Species were recovering. The damage Richard had caused was being slowly, painstakingly repaired. Her phone buzzed. Another whistleblower reaching out, this one from a tech company dumping electronic waste in Vietnam. Another case. Another fight. She smiled. This was her life now, not writing code for billion-dollar companies, but fighting for communities that couldn't fight for themselves. Using her engineering skills to track pollution. Using her marine biology knowledge to document damage. Using her platform to amplify voices that had been silenced. One evening, Maya received an unexpected letter. Prison stationery. Richard's handwriting. She almost threw it away. Almost. But curiosity won. "Maya," it read, "I see your face on the news. I see what you're building. I see the bay recovering. I was wrong about everything. I'm sorry." He never finished. The rest of the page was blank. Maya folded the letter and filed it away. Not as forgiveness. Richard didn't deserve that. But as a reminder. A reminder that even people who seemed untouchable could fall. That justice, though slow, could prevail. 2 years after the trial, Maya Chen stood at a university podium wearing her doctoral robes. She'd gone back to school, finished her marine biology PhD while running the Ecosystem Justice Project. Her dissertation, Systemic Approaches to Corporate Environmental Accountability, Case Studies in Whistleblower-Led Prosecution. The committee had awarded it highest honors. Now, as the graduation speaker at UC Berkeley's Environmental Science Commencement, she looked out at hundreds of young faces ready to change the world. 2 years ago, Maya began, I was drowning in a pool of venomous lionfish, fighting for my life because I dared to expose corporate pollution. Today, I'm standing here with a doctorate, leading an organization that's prosecuted 17 environmental crimes cases, and watching the ecosystem I fought to protect slowly heal. She paused, letting the words sink in. I tell you this not to celebrate myself, but to show you what's possible when we refuse to accept that wealth equals immunity. When we choose truth over silence. When we understand that protecting the environment isn't just about saving abstract ecosystems. It's about protecting communities, families, futures. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. The bay is recovering. Fish populations are rebounding. Harbor seals have returned. Children can swim in the water again without getting sick. And it happened because people refused to look away when it was dangerous to look. Maya clicked to a slide showing the Ecosystem Justice Project's wins. Louisiana chemical plant shut down. Executives facing criminal charges. Michigan water treatment facility forced into compliance. Oil pipeline construction halted pending environmental review. But we're not done, she continued. There are still communities drinking poisoned water. Still corporations calculating that fines are cheaper than compliance. Still whistleblowers being threatened into silence. Her voice grew fierce. So to you graduates, the scientists, advocates, engineers of tomorrow, I say this. Use your knowledge as a weapon against injustice. Use your skills to expose what powerful people want hidden. Use your voices to amplify those who can't speak. The crowd rose in thunderous applause. After the ceremony, Maya walked across campus to the newly opened Marine Research Center, funded partially by Richard Blackwell's seized assets, ironically enough. The building's dedication plaque read, "For those who speak truth to power." Inside, students worked at gleaming lab benches, analyzing water samples, tracking pollution sources, documenting ecosystem recovery. The next generation of environmental warriors. A young woman approached Maya hesitantly. Dr. Chen, I just wanted to say, your story inspired me to report safety violations at my summer internship. The company was dumping illegally. I was terrified, but I thought about what you did, and I spoke up. Maya smiled. What happened? EPA investigation. The plant was shut down. They're facing criminal charges. The students' eyes shone. Because someone finally told the truth. That evening, Maya visited the Bay one last time before flying to Washington, D.C. for congressional testimony on whistleblower protections. She stood at the water's edge as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. A harbor seal surfaced nearby, watching her with curious dark eyes. One of the colony that had returned after the cleanup. Maya thought about everything that had led here. The scholarship that had seemed like a miracle. Her mother's death that had derailed her dreams. The year's working jobs she was overqualified for. Richard Blackwell's cruelty. The lionfish pool. The moment of choice. To save him or let justice take its course. She'd saved him. Not because he deserved it, but because she refused to become what he was. Refused to let his cruelty define her humanity. And in saving him, she'd exposed him. His confession, caught on camera, had been the key that unlocked everything. The prosecution, the conviction, the systematic dismantling of the corruption he'd built. Sometimes, Maya reflected, the most powerful act of resistance wasn't revenge. It was maintaining your humanity in the face of those who'd lost theirs. It was choosing justice over vengeance. It was surviving, and then using that survival to protect others. Her phone buzzed. Another whistleblower reaching out. Another case of corporate pollution. Another community needing a voice. Maya checked the details, already formulating a strategy. They'd need satellite data, water samples, document analysis. They'd need to move fast before evidence disappeared. This was her life now. This was her purpose. The seal dove beneath the surface, leaving ripples that spread outward in perfect circles. Maya watched them expand, thinking about how one action, one person refusing to stay silent, could ripple outward, changing everything. She turned from the water and headed home, ready for the next fight. The ocean had taught her well. Sometimes you have to dive deep into dangerous waters to find the truth. Sometimes you have to face the predators to protect what matters. And sometimes, surviving the storm is just the beginning of changing the tide. Thank you for following Maya's incredible journey. If this story inspired you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful true stories of courage and justice. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Drop a comment below telling us